Hey everybody, this is Joe. I'm here in Houston. I'm in my backyard garden. It is 1st of September and it is quite a mess, as you can see. I have a little helpers over here. I've got Buttercup and I've got Mrs. Doubtfire, and they're meeting in the middle. Everybody be nice. Be nice. It's like having toddlers who take each other's toys away. So I am just going to show you, not a lot has changed since my video last week, but I thought I would show you a couple of things I'm doing. I'm trying to do a tidy up. It finally got cool enough to work out here. It's been raining and that helps. And so I thought I'd show you a couple of the little chores that I've been doing. So we had Hurricane Beryl about, a month ago, 5 weeks ago? And this big Amistad salvia collapsed in the middle. It was blown over. But there were still some pieces that were upright and that looked nice. And here's a picture, here's a close-up of how pretty that flower is. And so I left up as much as I could so that I didn't cut everything down. This is a big draw for bumblebees and butterflies, and pretty soon we're going to have the hummingbirds come through, and this is a really important plant for the hummingbirds in my yard. And so what I did a couple weeks ago was I trimmed the bottom out, and you can see where I made the cuts here, and now I've got all new growth and new little flowers coming out. And so this will be a nice mound of flowers in another, let's say, week. And then I will probably come through, because they look kind of goofy, they tend to sort of be around the edges. I will then come through and cut that back so that I'll have kind of a uniform looking mound. Right now I have this goofy down here, nice green, new flowers, and then all this really tall. And so that was worth it to cut this, even though it looks a little bit goofy. And let me see if I can get a little bit closer picture to one that's really blooming beautifully. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? And it's that perfect tubular shape for a hummingbird. I also trimmed one of my roses. This big, gigantic rose, which is kind of a mess right now, is Excellence von Schubert. But you can see, let's see if I go back in here. It's kind of a jungle, y'all. But you can see I've got big chunks of flower on it, big flowers, and I've got some more up here, lots of buds. And so I gave this a fairly hard, I'm caught, help. I gave this a fairly hard haircut. I have a hat on. This is what got caught on the rosebud there, in case you were wondering what that was all about. Mayday. So I give us a pretty hard haircut. And it's funny, this end seems to have had a lot of foliage still on it, but you can see in the middle there's a lot that's kind of defoliated. It kind of does that every year. It's a little bit of a funny little bush, but I'm hoping that will give a nice fall bloom to it and encourage new growth and some new flowers for the fall. I waited until it was in the 80s. It's going to be in the 80s pretty much for the next 10 days, and had a lot of rain. We're getting up some more rain this week, and so I felt like it was safe to go ahead and give it a big chop. The other thing I'll do is I will fertilize. This is just one of the, I sort of pick various and sundry things, but I will, this is a seaweed fertilizer, and so I will put this on that rose to see if I can get it another little boost, since I've chopped so much of it off. Now I've been sort of weeding, and you guys, the weed situation is out of control in this garden because it gets so hot. I just don't do it. I just leave it, and so when it cools off a little bit, I felt like I needed to get something going. But I'm going to show you this first because it's, I think, the prettiest thing in the yard right now. This is Duranta, and oh my gosh, right? It's just these little, like, hanging, I don't know, they kind of look like fireworks, right? When they explode and then fall down. And I'm loving it. I really am sort of new. I bought it last year, maybe 2 years ago, and I put it in too much shade. And so I've moved it this year. And wow, I'm so thrilled with it. And then I've got a few seedlings coming up. I threw out a lot of seeds for fennel. So here's a little fennel this is sort of my remaining plant here. And it's got a little shoot coming up, but I've also got some seedlings that are popping up. Most of my seedlings croaked on me, but I have got a couple that have survived, and hopefully they will keep going now that it's not in the hundreds. And then you can see this was all weeds, y'all. I mean, for goodness sake, that's ridiculous. So, but that's my style, is like, it'll be fine. Okay, this is a native salvia. I have forgotten the name. I literally am going to have to go through, 10 or 15 videos to try to find the name, because I read the tag on it, but it's a electric blue. It's native. I had no idea what I was getting into, because it is planted. I guess I've got two here and here, but I mean, for goodness sake, y'all. So this is clearly, it's smothering this little coneflower in here, which is looking a little bit ratty, but it looks okay, really. So this is really, pardon me, I've got a big old airplane going by. This is smothering this, and it doesn't look particularly good, but in maybe October, I will dig this up and I'll put it out there somewhere so that it can have some space to sprawl, and I'll just see little peaks of blue in the spring. I thought maybe it would bloom all year. It did not. It looks like maybe it's just a spring bloomer. Well, maybe we'll find out if it will bloom again when it cools off this fall. But this is one of those right plant, right place things where you've got to be willing to, accept defeat and move something, because I thought this was going to be like a 6-inch 12 by 12 plant, and so gosh, it's very happy but it's in my way. The other thing I'm going to do, I have tried to get swamp milkweed or common milkweed, I can't remember, that's pink, to grow right here. I have bought pot after pot of it. It's too hard for me. I am too lazy, as is evidenced by how many weeds. Okay, yeah, there we go. I'm too lazy to try to grow that kind of native milkweed. It's tricky. I grow this. These are all from seed. Hello, Buttercup. This is aquatic milkweed. Easy peasy to grow from seed. But the other ones have been tricky. I've bought them and they've all died. And so I'm just going to go. You can see I even had a little volunteer. I don't know if you can see it. That is a little aquatic milkweed that just came up because I have some planted over here. So I'm going to fill this little spot in, and they can take a little shade. I think that full blasting sun, this is right in the middle of the yard, full sun is a lot for this plant, but I think it'll do all right in there. And so I'm going to put these in. Normally I wouldn't, but I feel, because it's still hot outside, but I'm feeling pretty good about the weather. I'm feeling pretty good. These are tough little plants with deep, deep roots. And so I'll dig some deep holes there and pop them in. But I'm really not going to plant anything else, I don't think. Here's another little job that I'm going to do. And see, I've got more. This is all that same milkweed. And then I've got a couple of pots here, and I'll go ahead and plant them in the ground as well. But one of the jobs I'm going to do is I am going to save seeds. These are the amazing seed pods from this milkweed. And so I have got a little organza bag, and I will tie that around there and tighten it so that when these ripen and pop open, I will catch all the seeds in here. Now here's a little bit of tough love gardening. I'm just trying to tidy because it just is so overgrown and insane. So I'm just trying to give it a little bit of order, like taking those weeds out. And one of the other things I'm going to do is just, if you've watched anything I've done, I do tough love gardening. This is a pretty pink salvia, right? That's tomorrow's flower. It seeded itself here, but I've got these beautiful daylilies, which are really pretty, even though they're not blooming. It's a pretty plant. And I've got these pretty milkweed, and I'll have a clump of milkweed there. Normally, for tidiness sake, I would trim this off, right, and give myself a little nicer clump. But that's got a lot of flowers on it, and we need as many flowers as we can for the bees this fall. But this plant, I only get a couple of flowers at a time, and they don't last very long. I have this all over the yard, so even though this is pretty and healthy and will flower, it's kind of blocking my view. This is the other part of it, and I'm going to pull all of that out. I don't even think I was going to do it on camera, but I don't know if I can get it out. Yep, I can. Look. So you'll be able to see it gives me a little more, it just looks prettier. See, it looks a little prettier. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, just grooming wise, I'm going to come in here. I've got it, my fountain's not working again. I'm going to come and just cut off just the brown edges and tidy this up. Pull out the brown down here so that this will be tidied up and look pretty. I won't have so many brown edges. I may trim that a little bit so I can see my little ladies, my little girls in the fountain, and then we're gonna mess with the fountain again. But it's just a basic tidying up. Look, I can't stop myself from weeding while I'm talking on camera. It's a basic tidy up for me, to where it just looks pretty and it looks less overgrown. I have done, you can see there's another pile here, a lot of weeding as well, and making room for things. More and more of that wonderful salvia was down in here, but I also had planted a couple of Gora right in here and another back there, and they're not getting a chance. They got smothered. And then that white is just a milkweed that just put itself there. I did not put that there. That's kind of fun too. And the other thing I wanted to talk about before I go too far away from the milkweed is that it's really recommended that you put your milkweed in your garden sort of close to each other. At least 5 plants together is the recommendation. I put more than that. Because it doesn't help a monarch caterpillar if I have one here and one there and one there and one over there. You want them clustered together so that your caterpillar can get to the next plant when they've eaten down that plant. And so I might dig that up. I might put some more over there. I'm not really sure, but I love that it's just blooming its head off over there without any help from me. And then, gosh, look how sweet this little Blackfoot daisy has just gone around this daylily, and I just think it looks really sweet, really sweet. And then I've been weeding a little bit under here, and I'll put some new mulch in here, and it'll just look tidier, you know. And then I've got this amazing, I love this so much. I am in love with this plant. This is the Mexican hat. Look how sweet. Isn't that great? And you can see it's leaning because this is leaning. So I cut off, even though it had buds on it, and I probably should cut this one even though it's got flowers. I cut this to try to give some light. I'd love for that to be a complete mound, but it's leaning because it's being overshadowed. And then I decided this is doing the same thing. It's so new and it's got so many little pink flowers. I'm gonna let that flower for a couple of days and then I'll cut that off to give these some room underneath. And it will also crowd out. This stuff is it's pretty aggressive. It self-seeds very aggressively, and it gets so big, and the other plants around it seem to be like, okay, man, you know, have your own way. And so even the roses, I'm gonna see if I can get a video back here. Even the rose, this huge rose, this is nearly wild. This is a tough rose, but you see how the back has this big, you know, sort of empty spot in it? It's because there was a bunch of this salvia growing there. I just pulled it up today. There's the other Gora, but it crowded this out and it was more aggressive than this really sturdy rose. And so I am being pretty ruthless in getting it away from roses and letting the roses have some room. Look, more. Such a mess. Such a mess. One of the things I'm doing is I'm trying to make a decision. Let's see if I can show you over here. In the fall, and this has happened other years, this purple hyacinth bean vine gets just completely infested with these sort of, I'm assuming they're aphids, like black aphids. They are gross, and they just kill the plant. They make it look terrible. And you know, I don't use any insecticides on here. Of course, I've already cut it all off and thrown it away, so I have no example for you. But it really trashes this plant. And so what I've got to decide, what I've got to make a decision on is, you know, this is this huge thing and that huge thing. That's all this beautiful hyacinth bean vine, right? But if it gets infested with these aphids, and earlier I saw like a single ladybug who was like, I'm working hard, I'm trying to help you. Do I go ahead and pull it out? I don't want to risk getting aphids on everything. This seems to be like an aphid trap, kind of like milkweed is the aphids really are just interested in that one plant. So I have to decide, am I willing to give up these two beautiful chunks in the garden? Do I let it just sort of die down and not worry about it? Do I pull it out? Or do I knuckle under and spray something on the aphids, which I probably will not do. And so I'm just having to make a decision. There's a big fat bumblebee. I'm having to make a decision about what to do when they become too infested. I've already cut off a bunch of it. Let's see if there's any on here. Here we go. I sort of smushed them on purpose when I threw them down here. Oh, okay. Here we go. You see all those little black aphids on there? And they just will completely take over a plant, all the new growth. And so I'm just kind of trying to figure out what to do. And I'm also filling in, you know, I've got this sweet little pot of Jewels of Opar. I just plopped it in here because my really cool skullcap died this summer, and I'm pretty frustrated. Both of my skullcaps died, the pink and the purple, and so I might not replace it. I may be listening to the universe that's telling me don't buy any more of that. But I'm using things like a little pot of something that is pretty to fill in a gap right along here. The other thing I'm doing, and I'll end with this, the other thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm keeping my bird bath filled with fresh water about every 2 days. I come and clean all of it out and start again. And so I've got my little hose out here. That's what I'll do as soon as I quit videoing. I will be making sure the birds have nice fresh water. Oh, and the other thing, one of my other things I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of my succulents back into my little succulent theater out here because I really moved them up. I moved them for the hurricane, but I moved them from here in the dead of summer because it just gets too hot. One day I picked up a pot and the pot was almost too hot to hold with my bare hands. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna kill the roots. So now that's my next little thing, is I will add those back in here so I don't have quite such a huge empty spot. Well, thanks for watching and listening to me ramble on about all of my little jobs that I'm doing. I hope you guys are having fun and that you are not as overrun by weeds as Buttercup and I are. Say goodbye, Buttercup. Y'all take care.